Okay, hey everybody. So I've been trying to post a live video in response to a comment that I got on um, the video that Shane and I did last week about polar testing and different types of polar tests for different functions. And somebody left a comment that I thought was a pretty good comment. It was from an ISTJ. And her comment was basically, are these ordinal step tasks or, like break down, taking the trash out for into 4 steps or building a hot air balloon in 5 steps, things like that. Are they really good TE polar tests? Because there's the chance that somebody who is proficient in TE, front stack TE, or maybe dominant TE, has also has difficulty with the task because they either don't have experience with that type of task, like cutting your own hair or something like that, or they might feel like they could do it in more, like they have to do it in more steps or fewer steps depending on the level of granularity you want to get into. But anyways, point being that there might be reasons that somebody with functioning TE has a also has issues with these TE tasks. And I get the point, and I think it's a good point. But my response would be that even if somebody who is front stack TE, a TE user like an ENTJ, which I'm going to show you an example of here in a second, even if they have quote unquote difficulty in providing a response, or they provide a response that's different than what Eric's looking for, nevertheless, their response is still very TE, right? It's not so much that they can't do the ordinal processing or coming up with a series of steps like a TE goal oriented task. It's just that they might approach it in a different way. They do it in more steps or fewer steps, but they're still doing it in a very TE way, as opposed to an FE way, which is very nonlinear, doesn't really know where to start. Once they start, they have no idea how many steps they've taken. They go up to step 6 or 7, and Eric will be like, "Okay, what step are you on?" I have no idea. You know, and it's a difference in kind, right? And so it's not so much about getting the quote unquote correct answer. It's about how you respond. Do you respond by providing, an answer that appears to be very linear and very, step by step oriented? Or do you have sort of this FE type of response where you're TE polar, and so you're pulling on your FE, and it's very just sort of nonlinear and kind of all over the place. So I wanted to pull up an example that this question or the comment reminded me of, where I believe so we have this video here on talk. It's a typing session of talking with famous people, and she came out as an ENTJ, and she is very ENTJ, as you will see. ENTJs tend to be like the most of all the types, their own type. And as you'll see, she's pushing back on this TE task, not because she is TE polar or has any problem with TE. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's that her TE is so supercharged that she's like, well, you're asking me to do it in 5 steps, but I could do it in 3. Why would I do it? Why would I take 5 steps when I could, articulate it in 3? And you see this sort of back and forth between her and Eric. And so to address the commenter's question about, what if somebody has quote unquote difficulty with a TE polar test? Well, their quote unquote difficulty is not because they can't process the TE. It's because, they might be processing it in this very supercharged kind of way. And I think this is a great example. So let me just play it for you. Oh, by the way, he's asking her, you know, describe, like, I think giving yourself or giving somebody a haircut in 5 steps.
with like work projects that I'm doing right now. There's a couple of them where like I'll say at work that I'm gonna have it done a certain time, but I haven't even started on it yet. Um, but
Does that drive you to work on it right away to get?
By the way, they're going at 1.5 speed. Just FYI.
no, no,
Yeah.
mostly because it's just silly stuff. Like typically, I just already know what I need to do for the thing, and so I don't work that for me.
Okay, can you break
Okay. Sorry, I was at the wrong spot. I'm skipping ahead now. Here's where he asks you the TE question.
down the task of giving yourself a haircut into exactly 5 steps?
In exactly 5 steps?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So gather the materials. 5 steps is a lot. Can I just do it in like 2 or 3? But we might be extending it a little bit more than it should be. I think we could actually get this done in 3 steps. So I would say, if I were to do it in 3 steps, I would say you gather the materials, which would include scissors, mirror, yourself, and then you start cutting the hair, and then you clean up afterwards. Done.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, 5 is
So,
way too many.
okay.
Like, what are you even going to do with 5? Like, would you say something at 5?
I mean, I'd say,
Okay, so he goes on to try to describe it in 5, and actually, it's kind of funny because he even has difficulty describing it in 5. And so you see this sort of TE showdown in a way where, to me, she's clearly ENTJ, front stack, dominant TE, and was able to just sort of use this supercharged TE to show, hey, I don't need to take 5 steps. I could do this in 3, right? Now, does she come across as TE polar? No. Did she give the response that Eric was asking for? No. But the way in which she differentiated in her response or deviated from what Eric was asking her to do is very, very different than somebody who's TE polar and the way that they deviate from providing a response. So just wanted to point that out because I thought it was a good example of how, with these polar testing questions and tests, you're not so much looking for a correct answer, other than the TI stuff, because the TI is all about providing correct answers. But instead, it's more about a style. Like, how effortlessly do you provide a response? How fluid are you in providing a response? And if you go back and watch her response again, she takes a little while to think about it, not very long, but a little bit to give it some thought. But then as soon as she's got it figured out, it's a very effortless, fluid TE response, right? And hard to argue with it. And compare that to, maybe I'll pull up another video with somebody with a, TE polar and show, the exact opposite, um, including myself. Um, and it's also similar. I mean, if you go back and watch the videos that I posted over the weekend with Zendaya comparing her FI responses to Dan Levy and Spike Lee providing FI responses to the exact same questions. Zendaya's getting very frustrated. You can tell she doesn't like having her FI tested all that much. And she kept trying to provide these kind of TI answers where it wasn't so much her, immediate authentic response to the question, but more of, is this a response that seems correct? Is this something that everybody would agree is a good response, a good FI response? And you compare that to Spike Lee and Dan Levy, they're just very fluid, very just quick and effortlessly providing a response, and they're not second guessing it. They're not looking for the interviewer or anybody else to tell them that it's the correct response. They know, like, that's how they feel, right? And so, very high functioning FI where they're not really looking for that validation where somebody using TI might. So again, it's not so much can somebody do the task, and it's more about the way in which they do it. You know, how effortlessly do they do it? How, you know, does it look like they've got to spend a lot of attention on it and a lot of processing? Are they trying to avoid the question and answer a different question? That kind of stuff. And so the more you compare, you know, TE users to FE users, and how their difference in responses, you know, the quality of their responses, um, you know, the more you'll start picking up on what these different functions are doing. Okay, so I think that's about it. Sorry that my live just keeps going crappy. It keeps telling me that it's, you know, a 30-minute video, but then it cuts off after like 5 minutes. So I just deleted them, and maybe we'll try again some other time. YouTube's just mad at me, I guess. All right. I will talk to everybody later. Bye.